Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are going to discuss about the human relations approach to administration. If we see the objective of the educational institutions, it's much more difficult to define than the purpose of commercial organization. There are clear-cut educational equivalents to such major private sector objectives as profit maximization of the product diversification. So schools and colleges, they are to develop the personal abilities of the individuals, to inculcate the accepted values and beliefs, to prepare the pupils for the next stage of education or for the employment. So, in this industry, a give and take or teach and learn is the main maximum of administration, where at both ends human beings are involved and they are being given, the giver as well as the taker. So, this way approach to the management of education institutions markedly depends upon the human relationships. Now, as for the human relations approach or the theory of administration is concerned, according to this, management is the study of behavior of people at work. So, uh, this human relations theory of administration also this came into existence in 1930s as a reaction to the classical approach. There were some classical thinkers like the Taylor, like the Fayol, Gulick, Ulrich, Weber, they all stressed the formal structure of the organization as they were against this human relations theory, and they neglected the role of the human element in the organizations. So the human relations theory is also known as the humanistic theory, it's also known as the socio-economic theory, and it's also called as the neoclassical theory. And it was Elton Mayo who is considered as the father of the human relations theory. He concentrated on the study of the worker's behavior and the production capacity, taking into consideration the psychological, the physical, the economic, the social, and the physiological aspects. And he called this approach as the clinical method. These studies they brought out for the first time the important relationships between the social factors and the productivity. And for the first time, it was realized that productivity depends largely upon the satisfaction of the employees in the working situations. If we see the effectiveness of any organization, we know that it largely depends upon the quality of relationships among the people working in the organizations. And the managers here, as they lead the organizations, they lead the departments, they are the heads there, they must concern themselves with an analysis of organizational behavior, and that is the interaction of people with the organizations. Now, apart from this, the study of formal organization and techniques used by the organization, this studies the psychological processes in the organizations. Not only the psychological processes, but also the informal organizations. We can say the conflicts and the chains, motivation and the relationships, and the various techniques of achieving the organizational development. And this can be achieved by improving the relationship among the various group of the people constituting the organization in its internal environment. Now we have some features of the human relations approach, and basically there are four important features of the human relations approach. First is that the managers must have a basic understanding of human behavior. Since the management is getting the things done through and with the people, a manager therefore must have a basic understanding of the human behavior in all respects, but particularly in the context of the work groups and organizations. Next is that managers must study the interpersonal relations among the people. Here the managers must study these relations among the people who are working with them, who are working in their organizations. Next is that the good human relations. Large production and higher motivation. If this thing has to be achieved, this can only be achieved through a good human relations. So a manager must develop a good human relations with everyone, with all the people who are working in its organization in order to have a large productivity and the motivation. Next is, and the last feature is that the concepts and the principles of various behavioral sciences. The study of management, it must draw the concepts, the principles of various behavioral sciences like psychology and the sociology. Now, there are some major assumptions of the human relations approach as well. As far as the assumptions are concerned, the first assumption is that employees' motivation. Employees are motivated by social and psychological needs and by the economic incentives as well. So these needs are this belongingness and the security. They are more and far important in determining the worker morale and productivity than the physical conditions of the work environment. Next is the perceptions, the beliefs, and the motivation. An individual's perception, beliefs, motivation, cognition, we can say the responses to frustration, values, they are all similar factors that may affect the behavior in the work settings. Then the informal social organizations. People in all types of the organizations, they tend to form informal social organizations that work along with the formal organizations and can help or hinder the management. And these informal social groups within the workplace, they create and enforce their own norms and codes of behavior. And employees, they have a higher moral and work harder under the supportive management, which lead to the increased productivity. It definitely leads to the increase in productivity of any organization. So communication, so power, influence, authority, motivation, and the manipulation are all important relationships within an organization. As far as an educational scenario is concerned, we can say that the students, the pupils, they are the clients or output of the school and college. So they are not processed or programmed or manipulated. So the learning program, we can say, or a process is purely built on the personal relationships between the managers, the teachers, the students, the parents, the community members as well, or we can say the organizers and administrators as well. Even if we talk about the leaders, the politicians, the officers, inspectors, local bodies, they all have their access to the education administration. So all human beings responsible at their own positions and places have a cordial relationship with each other. So it gives an effective and efficient impetus to the educational process. And in a human relationship approach in educational administration, the importance of the individuals working in an organization and in a particular their views, their needs and prejudices dominate. So the need of the teachers and the schools, we can say, are complementary and each requires the other. So if they don't match, both things suffer. That is the school as well as the students, the teachers suffer. So the teacher will not be able to achieve, and the school will fail to meet its objectives. So if they fit each other, the objectives are achieved as suited to the silent feature. So relationships approach helps education to achieve the effective results. So this is just introduction of the human relations approach. Tomorrow we'll discuss some studies that are related to the human relations approach, to administration. So I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, take care and stay safe.